Welcome to LabTrainingVR, PPE Edition. By the end of this course, you will be able to identify the routes of transmission of infectious agents, don and doff the appropriate PPE for daily use at the bench, and don and doff PPE during an emergency. You will accomplish this by moving through different halls of a virtual museum, learning about various topics, then moving to a virtual laboratory, where you will don and doff PPE as part of your final exam. You will need to score an 80% or better to pass. Currently, you are standing in the lobby. It is filled with exhibits that are designed to teach you how to interact with your virtual environment. You must complete all the activities in each area in order to continue. You can always check your progress on the access panel by the doorway. If you want more information on other training materials by CDC, there's a booth over there you can visit. Let's get started familiarizing yourself with the VR controls in this Learning Museum lobby. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, personal protective equipment, or PPE, is one of the most critical elements that can help keep you safe when working in a laboratory. Here you will find an assortment of PPE commonly found in a clinical lab. At the end of this training course, you will be required to don and doff PPE. This exhibit will teach you how to don and doff these items in VR. In order to complete this exhibit, you must don and doff each item offered. When you remove the PPE, place it into the waste container. In order to put goggles on, in order to put safety glasses on, grasp them and raise them to your upper face. They will snap into place. To remove them, reach up to your upper face and pull the trigger of your controller. Welcome to the Hall of Infection. As you move through this wing, you will find numerous exhibits that will educate you on the routes of transmission and how proper clothing and PPE can help keep you safe. You will need to complete all of the exhibits before you are able to enter the next hall. Great. In order to complete this activity, teleport to the 3 highlighted areas. When working in a laboratory, appropriate personal clothing is a must. Depending on your laboratory and standard operating procedures, and long pants are recommended for certain tasks based on your institutional policies. Wearing shorts or open-toe shoes can leave you vulnerable to biological or chemical exposure. Press the highlighted button to see how following proper protocols and wearing proper PPE changes things. It's a busy time at the lab. Jeanette and Khan are working overtime to process specimens. Unfortunately, someone left a beaker with residual fluid in it on the bench top. In Jeanette's rush, she accidentally knocks the beaker off of the bench top. Since she wasn't wearing appropriate personal clothing and PPE, she was exposed through direct
Avoid
contact.
touching your
Proper
face
PPE
or putting
practices
anything
could have
in
minimized
or
this.
near your
Clara
mouth.
was trying to flush her work how proper
Andy and
exposure
Deborah,
in
in
addition to
addition to
appropriate
appropriate
personal
personal
clothing,
clothing,
changed
changed
the
the
specimen
specimen
from
that
an
had a
adjacent
history
lab
of
transmitting
something
the
that
bench
is
top
inhalation,
wasn't
such
properly
as
cleaned.
glove
And
and
someone
pen,
has left
while it
or
was
anything.
clean,
Clara heard a
Andy,
snap.
following
Didn't follow
proper
standard
lab
practices
and wearing
the
proper
lid of the centrifuge could have prevented some of the tubes. Proper press the highlighted button and see how following proper protocol there was highlighted wearing proper PPE. Because Clara wasn't wearing proper would assist, she may have been exposed through inhalation. Press the highlighted button to apply proper PPE and see how
When
that
working in the
changes
lab
things.
and an incident, such as an accidental exposure occurs, it is important not to panic. Going through a quick thought process can help you remain calm and quickly select additional PPE that will help protect you and address the unexpected incident. As you continue through this exhibit, keep in mind the steps
Welcome to the
stop,
Hall of Risk.
assess,
In this area,
and act.
you'll need to enter
When
the
taking
exhibits
action,
and
select the
based
personal
on
scenarios
that is
you
appropriate
experience.
based on wearing.
Let's get familiar with the
Before
steps
you
now.
enter a lab, necessary to don
This
PPE
involves
that
stopping
offers
and
an
identifying
that is
problems you
incorrect.
select.
Since this
Examples of
procedure
questions
has
that you
exhibit
could
of
ask have been
this
tasked
are,
with
what
adding could go wrong,
EDTA
or what
to
just
a
happened,
vacutainer
or what was I working with?
In this exhibit,
Or
you
was I
have
working
been
with
tasked with something
comparing
infectious
series
or analysis.
For example, my glove just tore, or I just dropped my liquid culture on the floor. Next, assess. You need to consider the extent of the risk and solutions for protecting yourself. Examples of questions you need to ask yourself are: what new risk has this introduced to me? What new risk could have just been introduced to others? What additional PPE will be best to protect me? And do others need to be protected as well? Examples of these scenarios might be changing my gloves immediately, or I need to put goggles, disposable masks, or double gloves on before I clean the spill up. And last, act. Choose the best solution and do it by taking action. It's up to you to be vigilant.
That is incorrect.
Constantly assess
Since this
procedural
that
risks
is
and safety controls.
That is incorrect. You can now
Since this
proceed to the
procedure
Hall of
has the
Risk,
potential to
where
generate
you will learn
spills
about
and
staying
splashes,
safe while
you
donning
should have
and
chosen
doffing
face shield and gloves. Please don the proper PPE for this procedure and try again. Although this procedure has the potential to generate aerosols, respiratory protection may not be needed based on your risk assessment.
Welcome to the final exam. You will be tested on everything you've learned through previous exhibits. This time, you won't receive feedback. The exam challenges will be graded individually and then averaged together for a final score. You will need a score of 80% or better to pass the assessment. You are now
In a designated entrance area of a clinical lab operating at a BSL-2.
This is where your day in a lab will normally begin. Your first challenge is to go over to a locker and select the appropriate personal clothing that you need to wear under any PPE. When you are complete, press the Done button.
Okay, now head around the corner to the assignment board for the next step. Selecting the correct PPE for a procedure is essential to help keeping yourself safe and infection-free. Your second challenge is to review the testing procedure that you will be working on. Then select and don the appropriate PPE. When you are confident in your selection, hit the Done button. Welcome to the laboratory. I realize that it may look different from the lab you may work in, but it's been carefully modeled to have all of the features you'd expect to find in a clinical or public health lab that is operating at a BSL-2 status. Head over to the benchtop that is highlighted to begin your third task. Oh no! What happened? Something's wrong outside the lab. Your PPE has been contaminated with sulfuric acid. Quickly, doff your PPE and leave the lab for safety. Aw, too bad. You didn't score high enough to pass the course. Please review your responses and select Exit, Retake Exam, or Restart Training.